lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The records show Mr. Dowdna is absent. All the board members are present. Mr. Board, has public notice been given?
It has. We are working off of the second revised notice. There are numerous revisions as indicated on the agenda, mostly related to hiring as well as open enrollment, but there are some action items as well. So too many to list since we only had one board meeting this month. There are numerous revisions made.
And public comment per policy 0167.3. Anyone wishing to participate in the period of public comment must be a resident of the Richland School District, the parent or legal guardian of an enrolled district student or an enrolled district student. Speakers are not permitted to make inflammatory comments, use inappropriate language or gestures, attack specific persons, or make a specific person the subject of their remarks. Please see policy 0167.3 for a complete list of requirements and restrictions. If a person is unable to adhere to these rules, they may be directed to end their comments. Mrs. Steele?
None.
Thank you. All right, reports. District Administrator's report.
Okay, a handful of things for the board and the public to be aware of. One for board members, we will have our May committee meetings this Wednesday. That is May 14th. There's an agenda item later on talking specifically about who is appointed to those positions, at least for the time being. I think all the board members know, but we will have our buildings and property and personnel starting at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. Buildings and property will be held in this location in the IMC. Personnel will be held in the board conference room down the hallway. And then starting at 7 p.m., not 7:30, but 7 p.m., we will have our policy and curriculum. Policy will be meeting in the IMC. Curriculum will be meeting just down the hallway. So those are our meeting times here for the month of May. Moving on, we have a lot of end of the year activities going on, far too many to make sure that we let you know about all of them. There are lots and lots of events happening at all of our buildings, but a couple of things that I do want to point out. We have our district-wide art show going on this week. You will see in the hallways that it's already being set up. We've got all of our lovely displays from all of our students throughout the district, from pre-K all the way up through grade 12. That culminates on Thursday and Friday after school and into the early evening hours. If you can't get here during that time, just take some time anytime after school and peruse through the hallway and see some of the wonderful things that our students are doing from an art standpoint. On May 23rd, that's a Friday at 9:30 a.m., this is our non-monetary awards. This is an opportunity for our students to get recognized for all of the different things that they're involved in, academically, athletically, and from an activity standpoint. So again, board members are certainly welcome to attend that. That is in the auditorium down on the west side of our high school, again, May 23rd at 9:30 a.m. And then on Wednesday, May 28th at 6:30 p.m., also in the auditorium. This is our monetary scholarship night for our senior class. So again, we have many generous donations and scholarships from the community and surrounding area, and our students who applied for scholarships, those that received scholarships will be announced on May 28th at 6:30, or starting at 6:30. And then all of that comes to a head for graduation. Graduation is on Sunday, June 1st at 2 p.m. All board members are welcome. All board members are welcome to attend and sit on the stage and be part of the ceremony. Please reach out to myself. Please reach out to Laura Steele or high school administration if you are or are not able to attend graduation. So again, we would love to have all board members there. Again, June 1st, it's Sunday, following Memorial Day weekend, starting at 2 o'clock, and that is in the high school gymnasium. Okay? Then, moving on, 2 more things here. Board members, you had new email addresses assigned to you about a year ago, okay? And that went from the traditional first 3 letters of your last name, first letter of your first name, where we had conflicts. That got changed to first name dot last name, full first name dot last name at richland.k12.wi.us. Up until tonight, both of those emails have been in existence, okay? However, if somebody sent it to your old email address, they could still be getting sent to the wrong name, okay? And so we wanted to have a transition period. Tomorrow morning, okay, only the new email address will be used, first name dot last name. If somebody sends it to your old email address, they will get an auto reply. You will not be able to log into that account anymore, but they will get an auto reply indicating this email address is no longer valid. Please use, and then the new email address, okay? So you won't be able to log in anymore, and if somebody does happen to send it to the old email address, they're going to get an auto reply back saying that that's not valid anymore. Here's the new email address to use, okay? So you should all be logging in first name dot last name to your Chromebooks and then your email address, all right? Okay, and then finally, Mr. Bosworth will talk probably in greater detail about what's going to be happening in the future regarding our bonds, but the second set of bonds, the $12,160,000 in notes, technically, for the second part of financing the referendum, that money that officially closed today, that money was deposited into the appropriate accounts today. We now have possession of all $27,160,000. And then again, later on in tonight's agenda, Mr. Bosworth will be talking more about what the first round of $15 million has done and what we'll be doing with the second round. But again, officially today, those all closed, and we have taken possession of that. Okay, so we have received all of the money that we're supposed to get. That's a lot of information, but what questions do you have? Committee meeting dates and times, some end of the year dates, email addresses, and we'll be talking in greater detail about the bonds. But does the board member have any, or do board members have any questions for me? Okay, thank you so much.
Student council report.
Okay, I do not see Ryan or Liz. Do you any of those names are online? Okay, so it doesn't look like they are with us here tonight, but we'll see if we can get them on a future agenda item in June.
Activities director report.
So hopefully you got an opportunity to see Laura Selgaby, our athletic and activities director, her presentation. She gave a general year recap of all of our sports and the clubs that are being offered in our district. She mentioned, we had 207 athletic events that we hosted. Of course, that requires a lot of workers. Almost 600 workers were hired. And we have approximately 500 students involved in something, activities or athletics to some degree. Ms. Selgaby is here tonight if you have specific questions for her, but otherwise hopefully you get an opportunity to see the presentation, or will have an opportunity to. Okay, thank you.
Maintenance and operations report.
Our Director of Maintenance and Operations, Brian Jones, he is also in attendance and can answer any questions that you have for him, and just some high-level things. He mentioned that his the custodial crew that we have for the district, under his supervision, they clean about 330,000 square feet of real estate every day. Every day. Close to 300 toilets and urinals are being cleaned every day. He talked a little bit about the shifting that's going to take place this summer due to the referendum projects and how the cleaning schedules will be used, and then just gave a general referendum update. He did mention that we were going to try to get some work done at the intermediate school. We may or may not be able to do that. We have, bids just came in, and then they're going to be working on a timeline. We'll have more information to provide later on. But again, Mr. Jones is here. If you have any specific questions for him that he can answer related to his presentation.
Mr. Jones, you'd mentioned the primary school, that it's looking like it's going to be more towards November or December for that completion for the...
For the kindergarten rooms.
Right, I was thinking part of the-
Probably December.
I know we hope to be able to only have a short period of time at the beginning of school, and that just the timing of getting everything, all the bids, all that taken care of. Or is that just all?
I was trying to get this mic up.
Just the, we were hopeful that we'd be able to have that construction done by September. Is that just delays in bids in the whole process?
Yeah, I'll interject here. Brian, you can certainly add something. We do have an agenda item later that specifically talks about that. There's a timeline for everything. But Brian, go ahead and add anything. But they've said all along for worst case scenario, Christmas holidays, kind of shooting for sometime in the fall. But if everything went really, really well, that they could add it later. But that whole timeline is laid out here as well. But go ahead and add anything else.
A little buffer there.
Yeah.
Just in case, quite a little buffer. It might be earlier, but they're saying, you'll see in the timeline, they're saying December.
Thank you.
Hope for the best, plan for the worst kind of thing. Yeah. I don't really think there were any delays regarding bids or anything. I think
No, everything's been on time.
Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Ms. Selby?
Gifted and talented report.
Okay, Joe Planka is our district's talented and gifted program coordinator. She had a link updated, but the general public didn't have access to it. It was only the folks that were logged into a Richland School District account, and so I'm asking that we postpone that so that our public can see it as well. So we're going to put that on the June 9th board meeting for her to do her report and the board to see that and talk a little bit more in detail about it. Okay? Thank you.
It's on to the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the prior meeting minutes of April 21st, 2025?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Billing. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Van Landijk. Discussion?
Just a quick update on that. There were a couple of corrections that were made. The minutes that are in the board docs do reflect those corrections.
Mr. Billing?
Aye.
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 Aye. Is there a motion to approve the prior meeting minutes of April 28th, 2025?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Billing. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Ms. Troxel. Discussion? Mr. Van Landijk?
Aye.
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 All right, on to financial items. Mr. Miller, the approval of statement of cash and invoices.
I move to approve the statement of cash dated May 5th, 2025 in Community First Bank General Checking Account checks number 87223-87260, ACH number 242-503-127-242-503175, EFT number 202-400-153-202-400-168 for a net total of $956,022.50. This is for the purpose of general operating costs of the district.
Motion was made by Mr. Miller. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Billing. Mr. Bosworth, anything you want to point out or add?
I would point out two things tonight, some of both the larger expenditures. The very first one you can see is about $20,000 to employer's assurance. The board has already approved insurance renewals for 25-26. This is a little bit of coverage from April through the end of June. we weren't able to write a 15 months, so we needed a 3-month to get us to the next year when we'll write one for the entire year. And then the other thing to point out is there is, I don't remember what page it is exactly, but there is a large payment on there, page 8. There's a large payment, about $200,000 for part of this remodel right here that we're sitting in. So that may have driven the total of the invoices slightly higher than you used to.
Thank you. Discussion? Mr. Miller?
Aye.
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 All right, the 2024-25 budget update report.
Okay, the next couple of agenda items will actually be from Mr. Bosworth, so I think he is going to get ready to give a little presentation on where we currently sit. So we wind down. Remember, our fiscal year runs July 1 to June 30, so we have just a month and a half or so, 6 weeks left in our fiscal year. Whenever you are ready, Mr. Bosworth.
You bet. I think it was a couple months ago in March, I showed some slides. I'm going to show the same budget slides today so that there's some familiarity. To start with, let's just remember what these colors mean. So the red line was our projected budget at the beginning of the fiscal year. The brown dashed line is the 2 prior fiscal years averaged together, both dollar amount and rate. And then the blue line is the current year, and when it starts to dash, then it just becomes a projection. So probably will be close, but not for sure. So the administration budget, you can see we are projected to be very close. So that's a good sign. Let me also mention again, these are not all of our budgets. These are 15 of our largest budgets. And so by giving some information about those, I'm attempting to help us feel how this overall budget is going to go. If a smaller budget, for example, one of the elementary school budgets, if that winds up a little bit lower, a little bit higher, we're talking about a couple $1,000s either way. That's not going to be a big swing on a $25 to $27 million budget. But when we look at some of these where they get into the $500,000 or the $10 million or something like that, if those swing, that could make a difference. So that's the point in showing some of these budgets to you today. So 7-12 athletics is projected to be very, very close. Common School Fund is running a little bit under right now, but what's nice about Common School funds is that if they are underspent, we can put those into what's called restricted fund balance and carry those funds over and use them in future years. Common School Fund is money that we get from the state that is specifically for library purposes. Has to be for libraries. The computer network. The last time I showed you this, we had an anomaly in there. We had something miscoded. The Chromebooks, those have since been moved into coded for fund balance. So now you can see that the computer budget is projected to finish very close to our original estimate. Curriculum budget. This was low. The last time we looked at it, it's a little bit higher. Actually, since I made these, I was reviewing some budgets and I found one expense that I think may have been miscoded and should be in here. So actually this blue line probably currently sits at about 120, and if you look at the projection, we'll probably finish pretty close. District-wide budget. This one looks really, really low, but remember what belongs in here is the private school voucher payment, which is probably going to be close to $1 million. So once we add that $1 million in there, we'll get much, much closer to that projected red line. Ideas flow through. This is one of the 3 special education budgets. You can see we're pretty close to there. Budget money is set. So if we have coded too many things to this, we can change that and move it over into another special ed budget, which is what we would do in this case. Maintenance and operations, you can see, is going to finish really, really close. Partner school budget, this is a newer budget that we have, and it grew because we added another employee for this year, but you can see that we are pretty close there. It doesn't have a projected line just because it's such a new budget. It doesn't have 2 years worth of data to be forecasting with. Here's one of the second of 3 special education budgets, the Fund 27 salaries. You can see they are going to be pretty close. Maybe they're a little bit under. Probably we would recode some of that stuff from ID as flow through into here, and one would drop and the other one would rise up, and they both will be very close. Overall instructional salaries, you can see that's close to $10 million there. That's our biggest expense, but we are projected to be very, very close to what we thought. Special education budget, here's that third one. This one's running a little bit under right now, but special education, as Mr. Josem will tell you, can change daily. And when new students come in, and some of them have significant needs, and we have to help them. So to be under at this point is a good thing, and we're prepared for any new student needs that come our way. If you put all those special education budgets together, we're probably tracking about $200,000 under what we had predicted at the beginning of the school year. Title I is going to be pretty close. Again, that's a projection. That may not get to that level. Mrs. Johnson and I are working on that together. Transportation budget, you can see, is coming under what we had anticipated. And utilities is also coming under what we had anticipated. So generally, we're pretty close to slightly under what we had originally projected for our 24-25 budget, which is a nice place to be in. To be under, but not greatly under, which means we're going to be pretty close to what we asked in levy taxes. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Bond proceeds report.
I think I'll just let you stay right up there, Mr. Bosworth, and go ahead and continue on.
You bet. Okay. So we have a short, update on how our bond proceeds management is going. This is my first time using a computer. You can see. Not sure what's going on. Cross your fingers. All right, what you're looking at here, come on, seriously, what is that? This is a draw schedule. This is something that Nexus creates. Any suggestions here, folks? The world does not want us to hear about bond proceeds. It's not just me.
Mrs. Stoltz, you want to make me co-host? And I'll
Sure.
just try to. and you might have to have him, you might have to click the stop share for him.
Board members, you should have this in your administrative section, if you'd like to follow along.
Okay, so just tell me where I need to be.
You bet. Let's stay right here for a second. This is what's called a draw schedule. The project manager, construction managers at Nexus help us create this. This is their estimate of how much money we may need on a monthly basis as we move through the 3 years of the referendum. And so they created one at the very beginning, and again, it was just an estimate. And you're welcome to look through those numbers if you want, but that was their estimate. Mr. Board, you go to the next one. So then, here recently, they've created an updated draw schedule. We're now about a calendar year through our 3-year process, and now they're able to make some more targeted and accurate estimates. And so here is just an updated draw schedule. Again, welcome to look through some of those numbers. We have spent about $3.5 million so far of the $27 million in referendum costs. Okay, so as Mr. Board mentioned, the second issue is done, the sale is done, it's closed, the money has been distributed. Of the 12.16, 11.16 went to an investment pool managed by PMA that will be invested very shortly. We'll talk about that in the next agenda item. And $1 million went to an investment pool in the LGIP. We keep that for liquid purposes just in case there happened to be something where we needed money more urgently, because a lot of the money that we give to PMA gets invested on long-term, months, years. And so we would rather not have to yank those back out, so we keep a little bit quote-unquote liquid. This is something presented by Matt, our representative at PMA, just to kind of show us that the Treasury is a good marker for how the market is looking right now. It is dipping, as the overall market has, but yet it has nice long-term projected growth. Okay, Mr. Board, you want to go to the next one? And so finally, I think what a lot of people are interested in, how is the first 15 million investments looking, and what do we project for the second, and what does the overall look like? So the updated draw schedule has actually worked to our advantage, because some of the anticipated payments that Nexus was thinking they may need have been pushed back slightly. That's a positive for us because it allows the money to be invested for longer periods of time. And so despite the fact that the market, the overall percentage of gain has dropped from 4.92 to 4.57, the fact that we now are able to invest some of that original issue longer, they're projecting about $100,000 more in gains than they had originally estimated. So their estimate went from $630,000 to $740,000, $740,000. And the next issue, they will again probably invest that in CDs and treasuries, a mixture, and they're projecting that could earn us about $565,000. So whereas the original estimate may have been $1.2 million, now we're thinking we may be able to earn $1.3 million on our bond proceeds, which again is just investing money from these sale of bonds and notes prior to us needing to pay for referendum costs. Okay. Any questions?
Mr. Bosworth, the opposite is also true, right? I mean, we could have some payments that come out sooner than they expected in the draw schedule as well throughout this process.
It certainly could, and that's part of the reason that we would keep some of the money liquid in the LGIP. So we would not have to pull an investment out if not necessary.
Other questions for Mr. Bosworth? Okay, thank you.
Bond management of $12,160,000.
Okay, do I need a PDF anywhere for this? Okay. Okay, so you talked about the PMA and the investments that we're doing, particularly as it related to the first 15 million. Now Mr. Bosworth will talk a little bit about what the plan is for the next $12,160,000 that we received today. So go ahead, Mr. Bosworth, I will stop sharing.
Sure. The first time we went through this with the 15 million sale, we sent, PMA sent investment proposals, bids to many different financial institutions, including some of those in Richland Center. They brought those estimates, bids back, and then we came to the budget committee, and then we came to the board, and we asked, what is your thought process on this? How much do you value the local or the overall yield? And what was voted on was that unanimously we want to seek out the highest yield. We want to make sure local institutions are given an opportunity to bid, but we want to seek out the highest yield. So that same scenario is playing out again. Matt at PMA has sent out the opportunity to bid to many institutions, including all the locals in Richland Center. Those are actually due back tomorrow, I think, to him. And what we're looking for, assuming you want to follow suit, is we're looking for a motion that would say we want to see investments that are going to earn the highest yield. So that's our recommendation.
Is there a motion to direct the district administration and PMA financial advisors to select investments at the highest yield possible, regardless of where the institution is located? Motion made by Mr. Van Lande. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Miller. Discussion? Mr. Troxel?
Aye.
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 Right.
Thank you, Mr. Bosworth.
Mrs. Steele, consent agenda items.
There's quite a few. Motion to approve the consent agenda items. Motion to accept the donation of cash valued approximately $2,250 from various donors for the Champion Games. Motion to approve the scope of engagement with Johnson & Block to conduct the district's 24-25 annual audit. Motion to approve the organizations below to be sanctioned for the 25-26 school year as presented. Motion to approve the budget revisions for the 24-25 fiscal year as presented in accordance with the provisions of the Wisconsin Statute 6595A. This shall require at least a 2/3 majority vote. Motion to approve the 25-26 meal prices as presented. Motion to approve the Student Assurance Services Incorporated as provided for the student accident insurance for the 25-26 school year. Motion to accept the resignation of Jolie Tracy, Richland Center Primary School four-year-old kindergarten teacher at the conclusion of the 24-25 school year. Motion to accept the resignation of Felicia Detman, Richland Center Primary School 5-year-old kindergarten teacher at the conclusion of the 24-25 school year. Motion to accept the resignation of Shelby Jones, Richland Center Primary School physical education teacher at the conclusion of the 24-25 school year. Motion to accept the resignation of Jan Zedman, Richland Center High School social studies teacher at the conclusion of the 24-25 school year. Motion to approve the hiring of Emily Zora as the IMC director for the 25-26 school year. Motion to approve the hiring of Clarissa Bith as the 5-year-old kindergarten teacher for the 25-26 school year. Motion to approve the hiring of Robin Dickman for the 25-26 school year as the alternate education teacher with extended contract hours as presented. Motion to approve the hiring of Casey Jar as the 5th grade teacher for the 25-26 school year. Motion to approve the hiring of Grant Hying as the physical education teacher for the 25-26 school year. Motion to approve the elementary summer school teaching positions for the 25 summer school as presented. Motion to approve the high school summer school teaching positions for the 2025 summer school as presented. Motion to approve the 3 alternative open enrollment in applications for the 24-25 school year as presented. And motion to approve the 10 open enrollment in applications and the 30 out applications for the 25-26 school year as presented. And that is it.
Is there a motion to approve consent agenda items?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded by Mr. Van Landine. Discussion?
The only question that I have is on the high school list, I see openings yet, we're still actively looking to fill those positions, obviously.
That's correct.
Thank you.
And then I would add just a couple of things. I lost my notes, having the same problem Mr. Bosworth had. Just to let the public know, the original memo for the PE teacher had a blank name. That has now been updated with Grant Hying for the primary school PE teacher position. And then also just a point of reference, there are 2 open enrollment applications that you'll see. One is an alternative open enrollment that is for the 24-25 school year. That's considered alternative open enrollment. And then the second, agenda item T, is the actual open enrollment request for 25-26. And just for a historical perspective, I did some digging. The 10 open enrollment in for this first round is very similar to what we've seen in the last few years. Okay, the open enrollment out of 30 is the fewest we've had at this stage of the game since before 2015. That was when I stopped looking. All right, so I think last year we had 58 at this time. Now again, this is very fluid, and people can still be applying in or out, and we won't have official counts until our third Friday in September count. But I do think that that's a positive trend that I wanted to make sure that the board pointed out, or that I pointed out to the board.
Any other discussion? Aye.
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 On behalf of the board, I would like to thank the various donors for their generous donations and gifts. And also on behalf of the board, I want to welcome each of our new staff members who will be joining our Hornet family. We are excited to have you. In addition, I want to extend our best wishes to those who are retiring or resigning. And thank you for your dedication to our schools, students, and community. All right, is there a motion to approve the modified agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Ms. Troxel, is there a second? I'll second it. Discussion? Mr. Billen?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. All right. Information and discussion items, district vacancies and appointments.
Okay, so again, just trying to point out things that may have changed since you first saw this. The building administrative assistant at the Richland Center High School, that position is no longer open. Before it was hired, the previous person asked to rescind their resignation and return, and so that is happening. And then the second table is the 25-26 positions. You'll see many of them we recently just approved on consent agenda. Some of them are on hold as we try to sort out the best use of staffing, and then some are in the interview process. But again, you've got all of the information there in your table. Happy to answer any questions that you may have, but this is the hot hiring time. Okay, thank you.
To 2024-25 discipline report, quarter 3.
Okay, so I did add the chart that showed the unique student chart. That's in the memo now. Shows you the number of occurrences, but then the number of unique students for each of the grades. You've got all of the data in the PDFs attached, the raw data that shows the quarter 3 discipline for each of the grades and all of the different offenses, along with quarter 1 and 2 data. And then you've got the charts. And then, of course, there's the total offense chart in the memo itself, with the yellow being the 24-25 data. You'll see just a slight uptick from quarter 1 and 2. That's normal. As you look at historical years, oftentimes we're trying to teach behaviors in the first couple of quarters, trying to correct those behaviors, but ultimately sometimes you get to quarter 3 and we do have an uptick. Everybody can interpret the data as they see fit. Just a couple of things. When I look at the charts, and I've mentioned this before, I'm looking for 2 general trend lines, okay? One, I'm looking for all 3 of the lines, 24, 25, 23, 24, and 22, 23. If I see them all kind of moving in one direction, up or down, that is something that I'm looking for. An example would be that if you look at like the possession of use or the possession or use of drugs, we have seen a decline. If we look at 24-25 data in all the quarters, generally speaking, that has trended down from the previous years. Physical assault is also down, but then you will notice that verbal confrontations continues to increase. Okay, so that is something that we're seeing, again, not specific to quarter 3, but more in line of 24-25 data. We see an increase across all the grades. And then the other thing that I'm looking for in the charts is if I see a significant gap in the blue line, which would mean quarter 3 data, okay, compared to the orange and the gray, which is quarters 1 and 2 data. And so a couple of examples of that might be truancy. You'll see that the blue line, quarter 3, is higher than the other lines. Okay, and again, this is oftentimes we're trying to work with students and families on getting to school, but we do get to quarter 3, and sometimes they've reached that threshold where we do have to go down a truancy route. That would be one example. Again, physical assaults trending down, even though quarter 3 is higher. As a general rule, it's trending down. And then again, on the downside, verbal confrontations is higher. So not only are we seeing it higher this year, but we're also seeing it higher throughout the course of the year. So just some things that I pointed out. I'm sure you can dive into any one of those particular offenses and gather your own conclusions. We do have high school, intermediate school, and primary school administration present. If you have any specific and general questions, obviously we can't get into student-specific situations, but any general questions that you may have regarding quarter 3 discipline data. Okay, thank you.
Referendum bid package number 2.
Okay, so about a year ago, our board gave the ability for our Buildings, Property, and Transportation Committee to thoroughly examine bid packages as they come in, and as long as it was unanimous recommendation from the Buildings and Property Committee, that could just get fast forward, right? And if there was dissension among any members of the committee, then that would come to the board. And so this is here for information purposes. I'll talk in greater detail about the numbers at the next agenda item. But our intermediate school did get updated. The original motion from the Buildings and Property Committee was that the very first item on the tabulation sheet, which was for site work, was for a price not to exceed $450,000. We knew we had a bid coming in from Gerke Excavating, but there were some things that Nexus had to go through the vetting process, so they approved it to be no more than $450,000. That bid came in at $211,595, so a greater savings than what was originally anticipated there. Overall, the intermediate school bid package number 2 came in under budget of just under $900,000. Okay, and again, I'll put that all together on where we're sitting on the referendum at a whole at the next agenda item. But this, as it relates to the intermediate school, just under $900,000 of anticipated savings, or under budget from where we thought they might be. There are a couple members from Buildings and Property. If there's anything that you would like to add that I may have missed, or if there's any questions from the board as a whole regarding bid package number 2, happy to answer those. Okay. Thank you.
Referendum update.
Okay, and I think it may be easier if I share my screen again, so give me one moment. Okay. All right, so just generally speaking here, an update on the referendum. Of course, you can access any of that through the website, and there's a specific referendum website there as well. Mr. Jones alluded to the primary school, and that's where a lot of the majority of activity this summer is going to be happening. There's already things happening. There's a job trailer there. There's some storage bins. Our staff are working at getting some of their rooms boxed up. Of course, that's going to be a tight timeline for them. We'll store it. Nexus will be continuing to bring contractors on site over the course of the next few weeks. With June 9th, that Monday after students get out on a Wednesday, teachers are here on a Thursday, and then that following Monday, a lot of the work will be starting down there at the primary school. Again, I'll talk more about that in just a little bit when we look at the timeline. The intermediate school bid packages just went out. We got those back. You heard that they were a little under budget. The next steps for the intermediate school will then be sitting down with our contractors and Nexus and Mr. Jones and Mr. Noble and perhaps myself, Mr. Bosworth, and some intermediate school principal and perhaps some others, and sitting down on what the timeline looks like for the intermediate school. Okay, and so let me just show you the timeline. So the PDF that's attached, and I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. Once they put all of this together, they put together a Gantt chart for all of the different items that has to happen. Okay, and so if you look over here on the left, and I know this is hard to see up on the screen, but again, you have this in your PDF. They've got summer site work, okay, and then they've got all of the different things that need to happen related to site work. Their estimated start date, their estimated finish date, and then you can see how each of those line items fit into the overall timeline and when things are going to happen, what's going to be happening concurrently, and then how that all progresses down as they go through removal to grading to lights to curbing to sidewalks to paving to final landscaping. And you can see that all laid out. Now, these timelines are very similar to budgets, okay? We can be ahead of schedule at any given one of these items, and we can get behind schedule. We could have a perfect spring and summer for construction to just fly by, and we could have 7 days of rain. We can have construction crews get, measles and be out for 2 weeks. There's just so many different things that can happen that can shift these dates, but they do provide a nice guideline for what to expect, okay, both internally and for the contractors. The same is true. There's this next bold row is the building rebuild of those 4 classrooms, okay, and Mr. Baling mentioned it earlier. Mr. Jones talked about it a little bit. If you look at this Gantt chart all the way down to the next bold line, which is right down here, this is scheduled to go all the way out to turn over to the school, and if I scroll up to the top, in December. okay, right before Christmas. Now, that's worst-case scenario, and my experience with Nexus has been that they generally try to be very conservative and overperform in their promises, not put us behind. So I do believe that this to be the worst-case scenario. We're still optimistic that we can get things done sooner, but you can see that whole timeline. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because it's difficult to read. You have access to it in your board packets, your board docs. Public has access to it in the board docs as well. But this is the timeline that then they will also be putting together for the intermediate school now that bid packages are done. And they'll do that same exact thing. There's a possibility we can get some of that done this summer. We don't know though, okay? Now that we have contractors and they have their approved bids, now we'll be able to sit down with them, see what their work is for this summer, how does that fit with what we can do for site work or foundational work at the intermediate school. We should know that in the next 30 days. I'm hoping by the June 9th board meeting, which is the start of the referendum projects as well. Our next board meetings, we're hoping to be able to tell you whether or not things will be happening at the intermediate school or not. In the coming weeks, we'll be putting that timeline together. And then the high school, we are at the 95% design phase completion. General concepts are done. Just dotting the I's and crossing the T's as we go through, just went through actually a full page turn of all of the mechanical, all of the blueprints that we have to try to make sure that we're not missing anything. So there's a couple of things that we're still hanging out there, not necessarily for us to decide, but for Nexus to dot the I's and cross the T's. And then we're hoping in the next couple of weeks that we'll be able to go out for bid for the high school. Again, most of that construction will be happening in the summer of '26. There's a possibility that some of the one-offs, auditorium, maybe some tech ed spaces, some of those things, possibly could get done this summer or even in the school year if there's a nice break where we can keep the construction so that it doesn't impact student learning a lot. Okay, a lot to be determined yet there, but that's a general timeline on where we're at as far as it relates to construction and the project. Let me pause there. That's the first part of this, and see are there any questions from the board as it relates to that. A lot of, again, they're just guidelines right now, but looking for questions. Did I answer your question, Mr. Bailey, earlier?
Sure.
Okay. All right, and the second part of it is, so how are we sitting? So you heard about a $900,000 savings from bid package number 2. Let's see if I can zoom in just a little here without throwing everything off. All right, so this was updated here today. Just walk through it line by line. $27,160,000. That's the total project cost, everything included. That's what we have to stay under. We did the Richland Center High School roofing project last summer. That's completed, and that came in at about a $980,000 savings. Okay, so green is good for the district, red is not so good for the district. Okay, negative indicates that it is under budget, positive number indicates that it's over budget. All right, so green, negative, under budget. We had a savings of $980,000. All right, that came in under budget. And then I've got, just for my reference and yours, when the board decided these things and or the committees over to the right. Primary school, that scope was more than we anticipated. Instead of 2 sinking classrooms, it was 4. All right, so that scope came in at $437,000 over budget. All right, now we still have some things that could be unknown down there. There are some contingencies built in, but as far as the bids, that came in over budget. And then you just heard moments ago, the intermediate school bid package came in at about $900,000 under budget, again, to the good. So the sum of those 2 goods and 1 bad, as it sits right now, is that we have a net under budget of about $1.4 million. All right? Okay, so then, what has been accounted for by the board? All right? So, over the course of a couple of different board meetings, the board approved the high school IMC upgrades with the space that you're sitting in right now. Mr. Bosworth alluded to that second payment in his report earlier, as well as recently at the April 21st board meeting, the upgrades to the intermediate school IMC and the primary school IMC. All right? Those are actual quotes, okay? But the board approved those things happening. One, the first thing that they wanted to do was pay for it out of referendum savings if it was there. 2, bond proceeds. 3, fund balance. All right? We have a savings in our thus far. Therefore, I am earmarking part of that 1.4 million to those IMC upgrades. Okay? If the high school comes in, you know, I don't know, some crazy number, $1.5 million over budget, we'll have to rework this. Okay? But as it sits right now, the board is committed to making those upgrades. We've signed the contracts. They're happening. They're done here. They will be happening at the other 2 buildings. So we've got to account for that $637,000. All right. Then a couple of other possible projects that I think we need to, I'm putting in here as an earmark. The board has not taken action on these. The board will have full authority to approve or deny them. But we did have Nexus when they go out for bid here at the high school. They have added an alternate bid to fully upgrade our 3 public restrooms here in the high school. Down on the athletic end, there's one just down the hallway here, and then one on the fine arts end. Okay? The original scope was sinks and countertops and some partitions. The other restrooms at the other buildings are being fully renovated, so we're asking, what is that going to cost? They've given us a placeholder of about $360,000, maybe slightly more, may come in less than that. All right, we can choose at that time whether or not we want to accept that alternate. All right, so it's just a placeholder right now. And then the second thing that we're working on, and you may have seen the city council last week approved the ability to enter into a partnership with the school. Hive Drive coming up here to the high school, that is a city street. I have been working with them on seeing what's the possibility of getting a sidewalk, connecting the sidewalk that ends at the intersection up Hive Drive to our property so that we don't have to have students walking down the street as we have traffic coming up and down. All right? They have indicated that they have a $200,000 grant, matching grant available, and so that they would enter into a partnership with the school district where we can go halvesies. So I've allocated, again, just tentatively earmarked $200,000 of our portion. That will all go through the committees and the boards. In fact, it's being talked about at our Buildings and Property Committee in greater detail on Wednesday. So we don't need to get into topics on that. The board will have full authority to approve or deny those at a later date, but I wanted to at least have it accounted for. So if we take our current savings of $1.4 million and we add in our IMC upgrades and pay for that out of referendum, and if both of those things come in at budget, the bathroom remodels and the Hive Drive improvements, that still gives us a savings of just under $250,000. All right? And that has not touched any of the contingencies that we have in our budget, nor has it touched any of the bond proceeds or estimated bond proceeds. I've got $1.2 million. You just heard Mr. Bosworth say that could get up to $1.3 million as an estimated. That is not touching any of those. All right? So financially, I feel like we're in a very good spot, and I think we can get all of our projects done at or under budget and possibly still do some things that will make our learning environment and our public spaces like restroom and safety factor of Hive Drive. I think we can still do something like that. Now, maybe the board has a different plan for that money. That's fine. We can have that discussion at a later date. But that is our general referendum update. So you've heard timeline, you've heard project updates, you've heard budgets. If you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer those. All right, perfect. Thank you.
All right, board committees and meeting schedule.
Okay, give me one moment to get back to my spot here. Okay, so at the reorg, at the last board meeting, last meeting in April, board members had, officers got elected, and of course, Mr. Unbehan, congratulations, is our board president for the next year. And so he has then taken all of the interest from board members that are currently on the board on what committees they, their skill set and their interest aligned. And so the appointments are in the memo for buildings and property and transportation, policy, personnel, and curriculum. You'll see the three members there. I think you were all communicated with as well, so I don't need to read all of those. And then, of course, we have our first meeting on May 14th, 6 o'clock for personnel and buildings and property. The regular scheduled time for the second meetings is 7:30 across the board, but remember I did just mention that we've got a shorter agenda for Wednesday, so the second round will start at 7 p.m. this Wednesday. At that meeting, then the board, or excuse me, the committees will reorganize on Wednesday night. They'll reorganize, they will elect a chairperson, and then they will talk about the committee schedules. And does this schedule work for them? If it does, great, we can go with that. If it doesn't, then we'll have to try to figure that out. It also should be pointed out that these are tentative appointments because, as you know, we are one board member short, and so as we appoint a new board member, some of these things could change. And of course, that would be at the discretion of our board president. Any questions, or Mr. President, anything that you'd like to add regarding that?
Nope, that covered it well. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Thanks.
All right, on to action items. Summer food service program and staffing.
Okay, so since COVID, our summer food service program has been very robust. They're initially coming out of the pandemic. We delivered meals. We did over 150,000 meals those summers after COVID. Then the state came back and said, no, you can't do that anymore. So you'll see in 2022, we had the more traditional number of meals served, about 200. And then after that, nearly every school district around the state said, wait, there's a better opportunity for us to feed our students, our resident students, through the summer. And so the last couple of years, they've now reinstituted, we don't deliver, but we do allow a pickup. And so if you look at 2024's, we did just over 95,000 meals, and we had 3 full-time employees, and then we hired 2 hourly employees. That same staffing proposal is being recommended for tonight. We anticipate having as many or more families sign up or students sign up, and we are hoping to hit the 6-digit number for meals served this summer. You think about that, 100,000 meals served at no cost to our resident families. That's pretty remarkable. But with that, we'll need some staffing. So the recommendation is, of course, we've got the 3 full-time already. The recommendation would be to approve the 2 hourly people as presented.
Is there a motion to approve the 2025 summer food service program and staffing as presented?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Van Landijk. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Ms. Troxel. Discussion? Mr. Van Landijk.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. The RCHS Science Credit for Pre-Vet Course.
Okay, so this has been talked about a little bit at curriculum. It's not necessarily coming as a recommendation from the curriculum because they didn't take action on it, but in summary, the DPI allows an ag teacher without a science license to be able to teach a course in ag where students can get science credit for it, so long as, one, the course has been formally approved by the board, that's why it's being brought here tonight, and then 2, that they meet the standards, okay? NGSS standards are what we use for science, and that it's equivalent to science credit. All of those things are being met, and so Dr. Johnson and our CHS administration and staff are recommending that the board approve a pre-vet course to be counted as science credit towards graduation requirements or fulfilling graduation requirements at RCHS. Dr. Johnson, anything that you would like to add that I may have missed?
No, I think you've got it covered.
All right.
I'll make the motion to approve or accept the proposal from Dr. Sherry Johnson and the RCHS staff and administration to approve the pre-vet course to be counted as a science credit towards graduation at Richland Center High School.
Second.
Seconded, Mr. Bailey. Discussion.
What's the anticipated participation numbers for this?
I don't really know. It's a currently running course, so do you know how many usually?
So essentially, it's just shifting it so it does qualify as a science class. That one we're looking at. Okay. Thank you.
And I would anticipate by doing that, it would not decrease in numbers, but only increase.
Any other discussion? Mr. Miller?
Aye.
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 Right. Art trip to France and Italy.
Okay, so our art trip got back from a trip over this past spring break. They're now in the early stages of planning for their next trip. This is a trip that they are looking at doing over spring break in the 2027-2028 school year. That calendar has not yet been approved by the board, but once that is done, they would schedule it over spring break so students aren't missing academic time. There is a PDF attachment with not only the approval form, but also an itinerary, an agenda that they're looking at following. They want to be able to start fundraising and being able to start getting this prepared for that, a few years down the road. So looking at this one to be considered a district-sponsored trip according to our policy 2430, as well as, since it's going to encompass at least one Sunday as well as a Wednesday, also waiving policy 5851 for that trip and allow them to start that process.
Is there a motion to approve Art taking a district-sponsored trip to France and Italy over spring break in 2028 as presented?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Bailey. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Miller. Discussion?
I think any opportunity students have to go abroad and see things in a different way is always an advantage.
Also, any idea how many students we're talking about, or will it?
I don't know that we know at this point. The cost, is there's a payment plan in there, so I'm assuming now that if it gets approved, they'll start being able to not only fundraise, but start to put families on payment plan. Do you have any idea how many went on this last trip? Is it 7?
I think that sounds right, and family, so.
Yeah.
It was 11.
Total.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Troxel?
Aye.
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 2025-26 Alternative Education Staffing Revision.
Okay, so one of the alternative education revamps that the board has approved, a rebranding of the virtual alternative education option that we have. It was a 6 through 12, one platform. Now we have approved a K through 12 virtual option, multi-platform, really trying to target our homeschooling families, our open enrollment out families that are choosing other virtual options. And with that original plan was a staffing of 1.0 FTE, okay, one full-time person to do that. And we recently, at a previous agenda item, recently approved that 1.0. However, through the interview process, we had an opportunity to discuss taking advantage of some certain strengths and expanding this to 2 FTE. And by doing so, we would be able to allow families the ability to have a go-to person for the younger grades, right? Because virtual instruction for the smaller grades, younger grades, not smaller, grades K through 4 or 5 is a lot different than an upperclassman, okay, middle school on up. And so by having some focal points to that, we would be able to, a little bit more of a risk financially, right, but a little bit more of an opportunity for us to really do a great job with our virtual instruction. One of the things that we have lacked in our ROA is the ability for students to have go-to people. And so I'm asking the board to consider, since we think we have some quality applicants and some people who could really do a great job with this, for us to roll the dice and expand our virtual programming, our Hive program, from a 1.0 to a 2.0, and allow us to get folks hired that can really gear towards their strengths, I guess is what we're saying. So that's the ask.
Is there a motion to approve the revised staffing plan for the virtual Hive alternative education program for 2025-26 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Ms. Troxel. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second, Mr. Milling, discussion? Aye?
Aye.
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 On to the new hire for 2025-26 alternative education teacher.
All right, so now that you've approved that, I have somebody that we're recommending. We have Amanda Luig being recommended as this hire. Amanda was, you may remember that name, she was at our Community 4K program at Bethlehem Lutheran Academy. That is a mutual, we're mutually dissolving that. The number of students just isn't there. But Amanda was somebody who applied for this position, and we think that her strengths could really benefit this virtual opportunity here. So we're recommending Amanda Luig to be this second alternative education teacher with extended contract hours as presented.
Is there a motion to approve the hiring of Amanda Luig for the 2025-26 school year as an alternative education teacher with extended contract hours as presented?
I would move that.
Motion made by Mr. Van Landij. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Ms. Troxel. Discussion? Mr. Mailing?
Aye.
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 Aye. Great. And yeah, on behalf of the board, I want to welcome our new staff member who's joining the Hornet family. I'm excited to have you. On to interviews and appointment of board members for Area 4 at large.
Okay, so our last agenda item, also a revised agenda item. So a couple weeks ago, Mrs. Dickman sat on our board and she resigned from the board position to pursue an employment opportunity. We recently hired her as a teacher earlier tonight, but that created a vacancy on our board. Mrs. Dickman held an at-large position, so all the candidate had to do was they could live anywhere in our district as long as they were 18 years old and lived in our district. They were eligible for this position. The board approved a timeline for that at our April 21st meeting. And the deadline for filling out the application or declaring interest in that position was last Friday at 4 p.m. And so we did have one candidate express interest, Ms. Jill Sharp. She is present tonight. And so we have some interview questions that we would ask all candidates, even though there's one. I would suggest we still go through that. You should have a paper copy of the questions, as well as it being listed in your administrative content. I would ask all board members to ensure that your microphones are on when you ask your question. Just go around the room. We don't need to have Ms. Sharp leave the room, but we will ask her to come up to the podium here in a second. But once we're done, then there'd be an opportunity for the board to vote, and if a majority of the board votes to appoint an individual, then that person would be appointed and they would take the oath on the next board meeting, which would be June 9th. That would be their official time to sit on the board. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to our board presidents for any additional information on procedures.
Yeah, good evening, and thank you for your interest in serving on the Richland School District Board of Education. We appreciate your willingness to support public education and to give your time and talents to our district. Tonight's process will include 6 questions that will help us learn more about you and your interest in the board. We invite you to answer each question thoroughly and concisely, so let's begin.
Again, if you could just push so if it's green, you're good to go.
Green.
All right.
Yeah, hang on.
So we're just going to do a round robin. Each board member will ask, well, one board member will ask 2 questions. But, yeah. So, Mr. Van Landijk, would you please like to start with question 1?
Yes. Before I do, please tell us your name.
My name is Jill Sharp.
Jill Sharp. Thank you. And thank you very much for applying to this position. Please tell us about yourself so that we can get to know you a little bit better, your background, interests, and connection to our community.
Okay. I am new to the Richland Center community as of about 4.5 years ago. I've lived all of my life in central Wisconsin. My husband and I wanted to move to Colorado and we couldn't go that far away from our families, so we came to the mountains of Wisconsin. And we're thankful that we're here. It's beautiful. A little bit about me. All of my life I've been in education since, I first started. I was drawn to being a teacher a couple different ways. One, I was an emerging reader, as we call them now. I was a terrible reader. And my experience in school was not good. And so I could relate really well to a lot of students who struggle in areas. I was athletic, I was good at art, I had a lot of things going for me, but when it came to the hardcore things in education, I struggled with reading. And I just made it my life mission to not only overcome that, but then to work to help students overcome that, right, those barriers. So I went into education. I was a special educator for 13 years. Worked with students with disabilities, the high school and middle school level. Into that, I was nudged by some of my mentors to explore administration, and so I went into administration. I got my administrative degree. I was a high school at-risk coordinator in Shawano, Wisconsin. So if you know where Shawano is, I was there for 4 years. I was the district at-risk coordinator and one of the high school assistant principals. From there, I moved to Wittenberg-Burnhamwood High School, and I was the high school principal in Wittenberg-Burnhamwood for 9 years. People were like, okay, you're going to be a superintendent, and I said, no, that's not part of what I want to do. But I had my fair share and plenty of opportunities to be in meetings like this and make really important decisions for the community and our students in all the districts that I served. The Wisconsin RTI Center was my next move. I went and I was an assistant director there for 4 years until the largest grant in our state for 12 years was dissolved. And then I came to the decision that all of the work I had been doing with coaching and supporting teachers in school districts, I needed to get back into it closest to the students, because one of the things that I really believe in is that you have to be close to the problem that you're trying to solve to understand the problem the best. And I was far away from it. I was the farthest I had ever been away. And I wanted to get close to it again. And so last year I worked here at the high school as a special educator, trying to reestablish all of the things that I believed in. I wanted to do it myself. I wanted to be able to say, you know what, I can't just coach and support this, I have to actually walk the walk. And so I did that. And a dear friend of mine reached out to me and asked about this time last year if I would be willing to come and work for a CISA to now coach and support new teachers. And so that's what I do. I work for CISA 2 right now, and I coach and support new teachers. I also help them with curriculum through the licensing center at CISA 2. And it's not completely full circle for me because I've never sat on the Board of Education. And my grandpa was on the board, and it's a part of the process, the part of the system that I think that I understand, but I know that I don't. And I really want to explore that. And so that's the reason why I put my name in.
Thank you. And Ms. Sharp, with your extensive education background and your very well-detailed history, you've already touched on this question, but serving on the Board of Education requires time, dedication, and commitment to students and the community. Why are you interested in this position, and do you see this as a long-term commitment?
I see this as a long-term commitment. I am thankful that it's a 1 year because I do have an 11-year-old at home. I have 2 older children, and I have an 11-year-old, and so he's very active, and I want to make sure that I'm not compromising my priorities. So my priorities are faith, family, and work, in that order. And so that is important to me. Did I answer the question?
And you again might have already answered some of this, Mrs. Sharp. What experience do you have that would help you serve effectively as a school board member? This may include professional background and volunteer service for prior board involvement.
Some of the things that I've done, but it was kind of joy-giving sitting here and listening to all the great things that are happening in the district right now. You know, just thinking about being able to be part of some of that makes me excited to contribute some of what I've done in my past and the learnings that I can bring so that we don't either do something that I wouldn't do again or maybe explore things that worked well, right? And so in my past, I was able to write a number of alternative education grants in different schools for the purposes that I've heard tonight and beyond. Highly involved in grant writing. So that was exciting to hear and exciting to explore the different opportunities that I know that the district is committing to. My passion right now is probably systems, making sure that the systems that we are running in our schools are in complete alignment to the vision, and that the decisions that we make are for the benefit of the community and the students that we serve here in our district. And I know that's kind of a hot button topic right now, but I do feel very strongly that every single community has its own personality. We all have these unique needs in our districts, and the board plays a huge role in making sure that those needs are met. And I hope to be able to do that.
Thank you very much.
Great, it's me again. This question I'm going to ask like 4 different times. It's kind of a 4-part question, so just bear with me on it. I figured it'd be easier to do it separately than give you everything all at once and then forget, because it would be easy to do. So the board has 4 standing subcommittees. Give us a little insight as to your knowledge, experience, or interest in serving on the Personnel, Negotiations, Budget Development Committee.
well, as a high school principal, I spent a lot of time on personnel. I mean, lots of time on personnel. And it's definitely something I enjoy and I feel like I can contribute to. My experiences as far as personnel is concerned are very much in relation to now shifting to strength-based. If we have people who want to work for our school district and they're doing good work, maybe, or they have a really good skill, I'm very interested in exploring skills. I'm very interested in putting people in places where they can add value to the district in creative ways. And I'm also interested in examining what our potential job descriptions might look like. If they are either eliminating options, narrowing options where we want to broaden them to get more applicants. I think there are some different strategies that we could be looking at if that hasn't already been done. So just have some, that comes a little bit more from the RTI Center. We're trying to broaden our staff.
And give us a little insight as to your knowledge, experience, or interest in serving on the Buildings, Grounds, and Transportation Committee.
When I was at Wittenberg, we did the referendum thing, and it was such a great learning experience. But I'm not the maintenance person at my home so much. I mean, I can do pretty good work, but I'm not that person, and so I can definitely serve. I have a really keen eye for certain things, but usually they're more cosmetic than they are mechanical.
And give us a little insight as to your knowledge, experience, or interest in serving on curriculum and assessment.
I'm very interested in curriculum assessment. I mean, that's what I do right now. And so I coach and support that in new teachers. I feel very strongly, and you'll know this eventually if I'm elected, I feel very strongly about inclusive communities. I feel very strongly about access for all learners, multiple means of engagement. And so I would be very interested in seeing and being able to listen to the committee talk about high-quality instructional practices, strategies, all of those things that meet the specific learning needs of the kids in the district. And that varies from district to district, right? And so we have to be very mindful of that. So that's something I am very interested in.
And last but not least, give us a little insight as to your knowledge, experience, or interest in serving on public relations and policy.
I am interested in policy because I haven't done a lot of it. I mean, I've always followed policy. I've recommended some policy, but I've never really been deeply into like decision-making around policy. So that's very interesting to me. Public, what did you say what the word was? Public relations?
Public relations and policy.
Yeah, so in my previous work, I did a lot of things, especially in Shawano with public relations and policy when, I was working with the grants and had a lot of boards that I did a lot of board work, so I had a lot of boards that I oversaw through these grants to serve the students in ways that worked for them. So I was able to do a lot of that kind of work that way. But I think my strengths probably are a little bit more in the curriculum area.
Thank you.
Good evening. Why do you believe you are a good candidate to fill this vacant seat? What unique strengths or perspectives would you bring to the board?
I think I'm a really great candidate for this. I don't have a bias. I'm not coming in with a bias. I'm not coming in with an agenda. I know the community well enough, but not well enough in that way, so I can be a neutral party. Sometimes that's really nice to have a different perspective, some fresh ideas, and ways of thinking and being that are just new. And what was the second part of your question?
The strengths or perspectives that you would bring?
I think I've talked a little bit about my strengths and perspectives, but the one thing I can say is I think one of my strengths is the fact that I've done a lot of different things in education. I've been in multiple different districts, which I think is an asset. When you see things differently and how they fit in different communities better than others, it's just nice to have those experiences as part of a decision-making team. Yeah.
Your final question is kind of all-inclusive. It says, what key issues do you believe schools, educators, or students are currently facing at the local, state, and national level? Pretty big one.
That is a big question. And it's dark out.
Yeah.
We'll make it short.
Do you have a copy of what I just asked you?
I'm just going to talk about key issues. How does that sound?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to start with local key issues. Again, I don't know the community all that well, but I know it well enough because I served as a teacher in the district for a year and I have a child in the district. I don't know that issues is the right word, but we do have some things that we need to be aware of as we make decisions about how to best serve students in our community. And one of the things that comes to mind for me instantly are our Spanish-speaking families, particularly. Do they have high-quality access to instruction? How are what does the support system look like? And do we have the structures in place to meet their needs? That's a question I think that we need answered. And I know things are already happening, and that's being addressed in ways that the best way we know right now. And I think we need to continue to explore that. Early literacy is being addressed at the state level through Act 20. I'm fond of it. I know that's been a pain for a lot of people, but as a special educator and as someone who coaches and supports early childhood educators, right now I can tell you that I can see the impact on students when I watch the classrooms shift in having certain ways of communicating with students and teaching and instructing. So we need to make sure every kid is a reader, that they can read at high levels, that they can access the materials. We also need to make sure that we are not pigeonholing students into one career or another. And so broadening the perspective of what does it mean to be successful as an individual, and redefining that for our community and giving people permission to do exactly what it is that they've been gifted to do by birth and beyond. We did have a time, I think in probably 15, 20 years ago, where one way was the best way and it was the right way, and that was college. There was only one right way, and that was a pretty ingrained message. It was ingrained in my head. It continues to be that. I still have to work hard, not to tell myself that, my kids would be less than if they didn't go to college. And the statistics are showing us completely different. So I think what needs to happen in schools is we need to really start thinking about how to inspire greatness in what kids bring to the table and have them explore that in whatever way that looks, right? Through specially designed instruction, through UDL, through the classes we're offering, through Jana offering a a science class in the ag department. That's absolutely beautiful. We need to be creative in making sure students not only are achieving at high levels and having access to rigorous curriculum, but also things that are really something that's going to propel them into a career for a lifetime. So, I mean, I have a lot of things that I believe strongly in. Early literacy is one of them, high quality instruction. And then I think the most important thing before I close is the bottom line is that we have teachers in the classroom who absolutely believe in each child. They have to believe in them. They have to believe that they can do it. And if there's a teacher that even has an inkling that a child is not capable of meeting at high levels, that kid knows, right? And it changes their perspective. It changes them forever. And so the relationships that we form with our families, with our students, with our community, it matters deeply. It matters deeply. Because we want kids to be happy, right? We just want them to be happy and productive and be able to manage their way through the struggles in life that they're going to encounter because they've had opportunities to do that here with support by people who really love them.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, yes. Okay, so the board is now tasked with voting on all of the candidates that they heard tonight. And this is not done secretively, this is done in open. I'll let the board president determine where that starts. But the votes will be recorded until there is a majority, one candidate has the majority of the votes. So, interrupt you, it won't be a straw poll, it will actually be an official vote, that is the motion.
Correct.
We're going
There'll be a motion in the vote. So, I mean, is the board fine with moving forward on this? Seeing heads nodding. Okay, we'll make it short and sweet then. I'll make a motion to approve Jill Sharp to fill the vacant Area 4 at-large seat on the Richland School District Board of Education. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Ms. Troxel, discussion?
I think we're badly in need of another woman on the board, so I'm glad you applied.
Mr. Van Lande?
Aye.
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 Well, welcome. See you next month. And I'll make a motion to move into closed session pursuant to section 19.851C and F as appropriate to consider an individual employee promotion and compensation of employees and individual employee resignations, hiring and compensation of administrator, performance, placement and or compensation of administrators, and to discuss the discipline and placement of individual students, and Wisconsin statutes 118.125 to discuss student open enrollment applications and individual pupil information related to those applications. The board may take action on these issues in closed session if necessary and appropriate. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Miller. Discussion. Mr. Miller.
Aye.
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 Thank you.